The dusty morning sun beat down on the crowded town square, casting long shadows across the anxious faces waiting for yet another cruel display of desperation. Heat shimmered in the air, mixing with murmurs, whispers, and the shifting scuff of boots on dry dirt. On the auction block stood a young woman, only 22, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Shame and terror tangled inside her, leaving her breath shallow and uneven. Her long, curly brown hair fell over her shoulders in soft waves, a stark contrast to the tattered cream-white dress she wore. The lace-trimmed neckline and once flowing skirt were faded reminders of the dignity she used to have. That dress had belonged to a better time, a time before her family's debt crushed them, before she was sold piece by piece like livestock. Now she stood there with trembling knees and palms slick with sweat, listening to mocking laughter and cruel taunts drifting from the crowd. Some men watched with cold amusement. Others with greedy calculation. A few looked away, too used to the scene to care. She tried to keep her chin up, to hold even a shred of pride, but the weight of humiliation pressed heavily on her shoulders. Then she saw him. A lone figure on horseback, tall and composed, cutting through the noise without speaking a word. The rancher's eyes were striking, like tempered steel softened by something warmer, something gentler. His presence quieted the whispers around him, as if the entire square instinctively shifted in respect. He looked at her, not with appraisal, not with the hungry gaze she had grown to fear, but with a steady, grounding compassion that pierced straight through her shame. The auctioneer lifted his hammer and called for bids. Voices rose quickly, some mocking, others painfully casual. A few coins clinked, someone laughed crudely, another spat at the ground. She swallowed, bracing for the worst. Then, through the noise, a calm but resolute voice carried across the square. "I'll pay for her freedom." Silence rippled instantly. Heads turned. Brows lifted. Even the auctioneer blinked in surprise. The rancher had raised his hand, his gaze never leaving hers. She stared back, hardly breathing, unsure if she had heard correctly. Freedom. The word felt foreign, unreal. Her chest tightened, hope flickering painfully to life. The hammer fell. The sound echoed through the square like a crack of thunder, sealing her fate, but for the first time in months, it wasn't a sentence. It was salvation. A weight lifted from her chest. Her fingers loosened involuntarily. She let out a soft breath, half sobbing in relief. A small, disbelieving smile tugged at her lips. And when the rancher stepped forward and offered his hand, she felt the ground steady beneath her feet. The crowd continued to murmur, shocked or annoyed, but she barely noticed. The world narrowed to the man standing before her, the man whose eyes held trust, safety, and a promise she had never known. The ride to the ranch was slow, the prairie stretching endlessly in gold and green beneath the afternoon sun. She sat beside him on the wagon, hands clasped tightly in her lap, unsure of what to say. Every bump in the trail sent a soft jolt through her, but his calm presence wrapped around her like a quiet shield. "You're safe now," he said, voice firm yet warm. The word struck her like a gentle blow. Safe. She had almost forgotten what that felt like. Tears gathered at the corners of her eyes, but she quickly brushed them away, embarrassed. He talked as they traveled, telling her about the ranch, the horses, the cattle, the quiet rhythm of days shaped by hard work and open skies. She listened, clinging to every detail, letting his stories paint a life she had never dared imagine. Halfway through the journey, he handed her a small cloth bundle. "A meal for the road," he said. She nodded, offering him a shy smile. His simple kindness unraveled something inside her. She wasn't property to him. Not a burden. Not a transaction. "Why me?" she finally whispered. He shrugged lightly, eyes warm. "Because you didn't deserve what was happening. Because no one should be sold for debts that aren't theirs." His answer filled her with a strange, deep emotion, gratitude, admiration, and something else she couldn't yet name. Hours later, the ranch appeared on the horizon. A sturdy wooden house surrounded by wide fields, animals grazing peacefully under the fading sun. Her heart lifted at the sight. It felt like the first real home she'd seen in years. "Welcome home," he said softly. The words nearly broke her. Life at the ranch brought a peace she hadn't imagined possible. Each day had its rhythm, feeding the horses in the morning, mending fences in the afternoon, helping in the kitchen or tending to small chores before nightfall. The rancher worked beside her often, offering guidance when she needed it, giving her space when she looked overwhelmed. He rarely touched her, but when their hands brushed by accident, over a toolbox, a bale of hay, a saddle, she felt a soft flutter in her chest. His kindness was steady, never demanding. He didn't ask for repayment or gratitude. He seemed content simply knowing she was safe. The first night in her small cabin, she lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. The warmth of the firelight, the distant low of cattle, the gentle creak of the ranch settling for the night, it all soothed the jagged edges inside her. For the first time in months, she slept without fear. A quiet knock came just before she drifted off. She opened the door to see the rancher standing there, hat in hand. "Just checking on you," he said softly. "Sleep well." His voice wrapped around her like a blanket. As weeks turned into months, she found herself smiling more, laughing easily, her confidence blossoming with each sunrise. She discovered joy in simple things, brushing a horse's mane, carrying fresh pails of water, watching the cattle run across open fields. She began to feel her own strength, her own worth. Evenings became her favorite. She and the rancher often shared dinner on the porch, watching the sky blaze in shades of orange, pink, and deepening purple. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes silence spoke for them. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, she whispered, "I never thought I'd have a life like this." Her curls glowed in the fading light, her cream-white dress fluttering gently in the breeze. He reached out, brushing a stray curl from her cheek, his fingertips warm. "You deserve it," he said. "All of it. Peace. Safety. Happiness." She leaned into his touch, heart swelling with emotions she had once believed forever out of reach. Gratitude. Trust. Affection. A slow, steady warmth that felt dangerously close to love. Their hands met over the porch railing, fingers intertwining naturally, as if they had always been meant to find each other. The prairie stretched before them, the stars beginning to shimmer overhead. Everything felt right, gentle, hopeful, alive. She smiled, realizing she was no longer the frightened girl from the auction block. She was a woman with choices, with dignity, with a future she could shape with her own hands. And beside her was the man who had given her the chance to reclaim her life, not by owning her, but by freeing her. As the night deepened and the first cool breeze swept across the land, she whispered a quiet thanks, to fate, to the man beside her, to the life she never expected but had somehow found. Hope, choice, and endless possibilities stretched before her, and for the first time, she walked toward them without fear.